You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 240, Firefighter. Whose fires are you putting out in your business? If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Let me ask, do you find yourself doing more firefighting than being a CEO or business owner? Do you find that you are exhausted and defeated because yet another day your task list gets rolled over again and again because you are putting out fires? Do you find that you blow right through your well-planned day because you spent your time putting out one fire after another in your business? If so, then today's episode is for you. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share with you top 5 reasons to join us inside Leverage Lab. Leverage Lab is my business coaching and training program. Number 1, you'll be trained on productivity methods that will increase your profits. Number 2, you'll be coached through the unique challenges you're facing in your business. Number 3, you'll be equipped to effectively reclaim and manage your time. Number 4, you'll be held accountable for taking action on your goals. And number 5, you'll be connected with other like-minded, driven business owners. To learn more and join us, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/leverage lab. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/leverage lab. And now, let's get to the straight talk. Have you said or thought that the reason you can't accomplish more is because you spend so much time putting out fires? Like you're running from one fire to the next day after day, and it's making you incredibly overwhelmed, exhausted, and stressed out? Have you normalized being a firefighter? Have you just settled on the belief that this just must be the way it is to have a business? If so, then this is my wake-up call to you. It does not need to be like that. Stop normalizing being a firefighter. Stop believing that this is the way it has to be, because it doesn't. Do fires happen in your business? Yes, of course they do. Do they have to happen every day? No. Can you prevent many of the fires you are consumed with? Yes, absolutely. And that, my friend, is a gift. So next, you may naturally be listening to me saying, "So Amber, how can you prevent fires before they start?" Well, the answer is simple. Find out why they started in the first place. The worst thing you can do is normalize firefighting and just say that's the way it is. Because when you just focus on firefighting and normalize it, you are now choosing to be a victim by thinking it is something that is just happening to you. It is something that you need to react to. You need to put the fire out, and you'll go on to the very next fire. No, the most powerful and empowering thing you can do is to seek to take ownership. This is what I call self-created fires. I want you to consider the fact that many of the fires that you're fighting on a daily basis are self-created. Knowingly or not, you're likely igniting fires because of things you did or failed to do yesterday, last week, last month, last quarter, and maybe even last year. Now, this is the straight talk I promised. Why is it a good thing that you recognize that you are the one starting a lot, if not many, of the fires in your business? Because then you can also fix the problem. You can be the solution. And that is what I'm referring to when I say taking ownership can be one of the most powerful and empowering thoughts because it leads to you being the answer to the problem. When you think that the answer to the problem is outside of you or outside of your control, that's putting yourself in a victim position. And that victim position is not going to serve you well. When you put out self-created fires, it's like plugging a sinking ship with your fingers. And then another hole shows up and you plug that one just to unplug the last hole. Does this sound familiar? Does it sound like it's that whack-a-mole game that you played as a child? Like you hit this one and then it pops up over here and then you hit another one and it pops up over there? This sounds crazy, right? That's because it is. You're not in the game of firefighting. You are not in the game of whack-a-mole in your business. You are in the game of solutions. So let's dive into some self-created fire examples so that you can really wrap your mind around this concept of self-created fires. This list I'm about to share with you is just a small sampling of ways in which self-created fires show up. And I'm giving you this just as a launching pad to help you be more aware of self-created fires and identifying them when they come up. First, double booking yourself. This can cause a lot of havoc and issues and certainly the need to put out a fire, but you got to ask yourself, was it self-created? Having to pay a late fee. Forgetting to pick up your kids at school? How about missing a deadline? Can't find information when you need it? Not enough time to work on a client project. Self-created fires can cause you to be so overwhelmed, defeated, and stressed that you have a difficult time even putting them out. They're coming at you so rapidly, left and right, that you literally turn into a firefighter. It's very hard to think strategically and proactively when you're always on the defense of, I just have to put this next fire out. Real fires can be difficult to put out too, when you are so bogged down putting out fires that are self-created. Real fires, you had little to no hand in starting, but you're so overwhelmed by the self-created fires that it feels just so overwhelming that you can't really show up your best and truly be the firefighter needed with real fires. Let's go over some examples of the real fires that you may need to be putting out in your business or life. The school calls and your kid is sick. Your dog starts throwing up as you're walking out to the office or to your next meeting. Your vendor makes a huge mistake. Your client does a no-call, no-show to your appointment. Now, these are real situations, quote-unquote fires, that need your attention. And they should have your attention. And you should be showing up your best to move, pivot, realign, reschedule, and make it possible for you to show up your best. But when these real fires show up to be just another fire in the midst of a bunch of self-created fires, my bet is it could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It could be an opportunity for you not to show up your best. And certainly it's just added stress. Whereas if you're only putting out real fires, you don't need to be stressed by those fires. You just show up and put them out. Now, these were just brief lists of self-created fires and real fires, but some fires are not just black and white as to whether they are self-created or not. And this is the gold that I want to talk about with you today. It takes having a good look in the mirror and asking, how are you responsible, if at all? So once you've addressed that you are putting your time, energy, and attention into putting out a fire, what I want for you is that your default thinking process is there any room for responsibility? I want you to think about fires like your order for a client project doesn't arrive on time. Employees making mistakes. Stepping in to do employees' task. Employees no call, no show. How about a client failing to pay you? Or the big one, an angry client. Now, I want to go back and review each of these because if we are asking the question of how are we responsible, I'm going to give you an example of you are responsible and maybe you are not responsible, but it really takes having this honest conversation. The first one, your order for a client project didn't arrive on time. How am I responsible for the order not arriving on time? Now, if you delayed, procrastinated, forgot to put the order in, and didn't give it enough lead time for shipping or any foreseen delays, then there is certainly some responsibility there. And that is good. That is very good, only in the sense that it's going to let you know specifically what went wrong. And once you take ownership of it, you're asking yourself, how can I ensure that doesn't happen again? So was it a process issue? Was it not having delegated or determined enough time ahead of time? Like you didn't understand the process of ordering from that vendor? Like, was it a process issue? Was it a decision issue? Was it a procrastination issue? If you can get to the root of that, that is your solution. However, let's say you have a seamless process. You know exactly when to order to give enough time, but suddenly the vendor is out of the item or missed the actual order and they dragged their feet and didn't get out in time to ship on time. If that is true, then there is not the personal responsibility of something going wrong or amiss that caused that fire. It truly was an unforeseen fire that while you can handle it once it happens, because you got to smooth it over with your client, there isn't something that you personally need to take responsibility for. This is nuanced, but it's really, really impactful. The next one, employees making mistakes. Look, we all make mistakes as employees, as bosses, as humans. But if you just say, gosh, Sylvia's making a mistake again, Sylvia messed up again, gosh, I don't know if Sylvia's right for this role, and you never pause to take ownership. Was she trained well? Did she get communicated well with what expectations were? Was she supported and given the environment for her to do her best? First and foremost, we check with ourselves where there can be personal responsibility for solving for the issue that we're dealing with in the moment. Now, if you've crossed your T's, dotted your I's, Sylvia is completely supported, you have trained her well, she has everything she needs, and there's still consistent mistakes, then that is not your responsibility, but you are left with, just like the previous example, you are still responsible for making a decision of what's best for your business. But we always want to make sure we've asked ourselves, have we done our best? Next, stepping into do an employee's task, right? And you ask them to do something, they didn't do it well enough, or they just completely forgot. And so you're stepping in and you're filling in to do the thing that you really thought you hired somebody else to do. Again, where is there some personal responsibility? Where did it go wrong that ended up as the symptom of you are filling in for this task? And this could go either way. It could go, there is certainly somewhere that you made a decision last week, last month, last year that got you to this point, or truly it is outside of your control. Let's take employee no call, no show. I would ask questions like, did you do due diligence during the hiring process? Did you actually check their recommendations? Did you ask if there was any issues with them being late or tardy in their previous roles? Your expectations and hold them to those expectations throughout the time that they've been an employee for you. And if all of that, is true and you've really asked yourself, is there for it yourself, then maybe it is not your responsibility, but you do need to handle it to be an advocate for your business and what your business needs most from that employee. Client failed to pay you. Look, this is an easy one where you're like, they should have paid me. It is totally their fault. I cannot believe they're not paying their invoice. However, if we slow down and we really ask, okay, so why are they not paying? Do they clearly understand when the invoice is due? Did you get the invoice out to them in time? Were they prepared for what and how you invoiced them? Like, was it a sticker shock when they got the invoice? Or was it really clear in client expectations that this is what they can expect? Really asking those questions, and whatever that honest answer is the actual gold of where you can make improvements in the process of setting client expectations, onboarding a client, so that this isn't a fire that you're continually putting out. Now, if you have good onboarding, clear communication and expectations, but you're still having an issue that a client failed to make a payment, then maybe it's just that they didn't have the money, and now you deal with that separately, directly with that client, and it really is a fire that wasn't self-created. But you can see how that can go either way. All right, let's wrap up this section with our favorite. You have an angry client. This is one of those opportunities that our emotion, our ego, our relationship with our clients can all get in the way of us being level-headed and really thinking of this objectively and asking, where is it in this situation that I got us here? Meaning, where can I take personal responsibility in acknowledging why my client is angry? I want you to consider what's the root of the complaint that the client has or what's causing them to be angry. This is so important for a couple reasons. One, that angry client might be the biggest gift because they're telling you where there's holes, gaps in your process or in your business that can use improving. Two, when you take ownership and you do come to that angry client conversation, email conversation, whatever that looks like, with taking personal ownership of how and where we got here, I guarantee that's going to do a lot better for your relationship with that client moving forward. If you default to, they're just being ridiculous, they are just angry and there's no reason for it, and you get defensive and you're not willing to ask the hard question of how did you get here with this client, you are never going to really be able to leverage the opportunity that they may be showing you a place in your business that you can improve. Now, why does this fall under it could go either way of self-created fires or a real fire, is that you can have an angry client and you have done everything you could possibly do to make them happy. And ultimately, look, we're all adults here. There are some people you will never make happy. And if that's the case, the quicker you can get there and understand that, actually reclaims time and energy for you, because I've seen so many times with my clients that they're painstakingly dealing with an angry client, but internalizing it that it's their fault. They should have done something different. But really, when you pull back the curtains and you dig deep, there really wasn't a reason that we got here with this client. And the opposite is true, is that I find my clients default to it is their fault when maybe it is not. and that is just how that client rolls. In this section here, I would make sure that if you have not already listened to my episode 232, all about red flag clients and how to find out if you have these clients that you're working with, I think that's a really great episode for you to jump into and take a listen to. All right, so what we just covered were a few examples of self-created fires, a few examples of fires that are truly fires that are outside your control, and definitely a common list of fires that can go either way, self-created and or fires that are outside your control. Now, assuming that you can recognize that you are the fire starter for many of these fires in your business, meaning there is an opportunity to definitely identify and take responsibility. I want to explore some common root causes. And this is just going to let you not just address the problem, but also dig a little bit deeper and say, what could be causing that problem? That yes, I take responsibility, but like, why is it happening? And some of these common root causes of self-created fires fall under lack of planning. Right? So planning your time, planning the project, planning ahead, being strategic. Taking on too much. So overcommitting to your clients, your projects, your team, overcommitting your team, not understanding what the actual bandwidth is of your business so that you can commit to something that you and your team can follow through to. Not having standard operating procedures, like a way that you do things consistently. So do you not have a way that you onboard clients? Do you not have a way of how you deliver your services? This is a really great place to start with, that if there's a lot of inconsistencies, that will definitely start a lot of fires. Another root cause will be lack of self-discipline. So you may know what your schedule needs to look like. You may understand where your time and energy needs to go, but you negotiate with yourself. You procrastinate. You choose other things that are this shiny object instead of sitting down and doing the work that needs to be done. And that's a great example of decisions you made last week, last month, last quarter, last year can have this like way of sneaking up to you. Poor communication is another root cause of self-created fire. So poor communication with team members with expectations or asking for help, poor communication with clients and setting that expectation and keeping that communication open with updates around whatever your offering is, service or process is what are you doing on a consistent basis to communicate with your clients. Another self-created fire is having the idea that you can do it all yourself. So taking on more than you can handle kind of alludes to what we were talking about earlier with bandwidth, but I think this one is more under the umbrella of like you are the best person to do it, that you don't know how to ask for help, you don't know how to delegate, you don't know what are the things that are your superpowers in the business, like your highest value activities and what can be let go of. Doing that over an extended period of time will create a lot of fires. Not budgeting and or not looking at your financials can create fires. It can create fires with cash flow of not having payroll, cash flow with not having funds to purchase from your vendors. Financials are a big one that you want to make sure that you have a process of staying on top of them, understanding your numbers. I'm just like thinking of things off the top of my head. Not being decisive. So sometimes, delaying decision-making can cause fires. Delaying decision-making around a strategy or an offering in your business or an opportunity is one example, but also delayed decision-making in the sense of in your inbox, in your email. They need your attention, your time. They need a response from you. You read it, but in the moment, it wasn't that like important or urgent, but ignoring those now bubbles up to urgent fires that you are putting out, like that whack-a-mole, right? Not feeling like you can get ahead. And that is based on delayed decision making. A specific amount of time aside for the things that you know are most important in your business. So for example, if you're an attorney, are you really protecting time on your schedule to be an attorney? If you're an interior designer, are you putting time aside on your calendar that is absolutely protected to give you that creative space to design? Could you imagine me being a business coach, but I was so busy doing the other things that there was no time for my client to schedule appointments with me? I mean, how much of a coach could I be if I wasn't actually face-to-face with my clients coaching them? And one example that I like to use here is like if you are a hairstylist and that is your business, could you imagine the day that the hairstylist said, oh my gosh, like I'm just so busy. There's so many fires to be put out. I'm doing marketing and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And you fill in the blank. I just have no time to cut hair. How long do you think she can get or he can get away with calling themselves a hairstylist? It's easy to see it in other people, but I want you to take that analogy and like lay it over you and your industry. Whatever it is that you are doing to sell and that the business is based on, because many of my listeners are service-based business owners, whatever that thing is, have you created the time and space? Because if you haven't, that will absolutely have a rippling effect where you feel like you're always behind, you can't get caught up, and there's always a fire to be put out because you probably sold it, you promised it to somebody. So these are just a few off the top of my head examples of root causes, but there are really a lot of different ways, but they fall under generally how you manage your time, operational efficiency, financials, decision-making in general, team members, leading your team, communication, I think really can just sum up those areas that you're going to want to look for. What's the root cause? All right. So now that we covered those things, I just want to recap with you what I shared with you today. In your business, there are absolutely real fires. There are also self-created fires that you started. It's important to take ownership of those self-created fires because when we take responsibility and admit our actions are the problem, and I would say our action or inaction are the problem, we can become the solution. We can make different choices and we can take different action so we don't keep getting the same results. Simply put, there are 3 steps to stop burning your business down with self-created fires. Let me break those 3 steps down for you. And we really went through these already, but I want to just succinctly tell you what these 3 steps are to stop burning your business down. Number 1, identify the problem. If it's you, you take responsibility for causing the fire. But that's not enough. Number 2 is identify the solution. So determine the habit, the routine, the process, the system that needs to be improved upon. And number 3, it's not enough to just know what the problem is and what the solution is. You guessed it. Number 3 is execute. Do better next time. Continue doing that consistently. Understanding that the decisions or indecisions, the action or inaction you're taking today may have a rippling effect on your business today, tomorrow, next week, next year, and forward. So if you can identify the problem, identify the solution, and then execute on that solution and do better next time, that is a winning recipe to not be burning your business down. You may have normalized being a firefighter, but that is not the profession you chose. When you do better, you realize something. That not only can you put out fires more easily and with less resources and stress, you can prevent them from even happening in the first place. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. And I sure hope you found my conversation around firefighting to be a bit entertaining, but I'm sure hit home and certainly valuable. My goal today was really to bring an aha to you around what you may be experiencing on the regular, which is the stress and the overwhelm from firefighting or playing whack-a-mole every single day. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So if while you are listening to me have this conversation with you around firefighting and you were like, oh my gosh, how does she know? Oh my gosh, like, does she really, like, can she see a day in the life of my business? Then this episode was for you, but it wasn't for you just to hear that. It was for you to be encouraged to do better. It was my encouragement for you to see that you hold the power to change it. You hold the power to change it by taking personal responsibility, by seeing how you may have created that fire, and then identifying how you can fix it and then executing on it. That is my challenge for you today, is to go take that action, to just take advantage of the next fire that comes up, hear my voice say, where can I take responsibility? Where am I responsible for finding myself in this situation? And what will solve it? What will ensure that this fire doesn't keep getting reignited over and over again? And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I would just ask to make sure you have subscribed, that you share it with a friend or a colleague, someone else that you think would find this episode to be valuable. You can hit send on a text message and say, this is an episode that I think you should check out. I would be forever grateful for sharing it and allowing me to help more business owners. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.